The entire altcoin market took a big hit today, and this is because of Ethereum, actually, not Bitcoin. What's crazy about this is, I've been seeing a lot of questions asking me, Nick, why did altcoins take the leap down today while Bitcoin has barely budged? And that's because we're not focused on Bitcoin anymore. Like I said, we are in phase 2 of the cycle, where it's no longer about Bitcoin, it's more so about what Ethereum does. For an example, if we actually look at the 24-hour moves, Bitcoin is only down 0.78%. Meanwhile, Ethereum is actually down 2.13%. This has caused altcoins to drop significantly, 9+%. We have HBAR. HBAR is actually down 8.11%. It's not as bad as some of these other altcoins, but we are seeing a huge pullback in the market, and that's because, of course, altcoins were at higher time frame resistance, so was Ethereum, and now we're seeing that pullback. So overall, nothing too crazy here. It's not like a crazy pullback. We're still up over 70+% on the 1 month. This is what the 1 year looks like. I do have the chart open over here as well. We could see that higher time frame resistance right around roughly 28, almost 29 cents. Our major daily resistance has been around 27.5 cents roughly. But the big thing to actually watch for on this low is, number one, I would like to maintain a higher low. I don't want to see us retest this, but just tapping the highs here would be fine around like 24 cents. But if we do go significantly lower, if we have that major wipeout, then the major target for us to actually retest or drop to would be around 23 cents. It would just be retesting these lows. But I want to see us create a higher low structure here. I don't want to see us go that low. I would love for us to actually maintain where we tapped today, maybe build a floor here and then continue higher to create a higher high. That would maintain bullish structure. I mean, overall, we are still in bullish structure simply because, we have been creating higher lows since this, low here or even the low back in April. So, I'm not too concerned. I would like to see us not have, a significant pullback here. Because again, at this phase of the market, we will probably see just shallow pullbacks that are short-lived until we actually start to see those very, deep pullbacks when, altcoins are already up 500+%. They start to move down by like 50+% at some times. And I know that sounds crazy, but we even witnessed this back in 2021 as well. And just for reference, I can kind of show you guys that. So here we have, the run up in the market. Again, pullbacks were pretty shallow on the way up. For an example, here we have again, these are still, I know it doesn't seem like a lot because again, on the actual chart, it's not like a massive wipeout, but this was still a 40% pullback. So, I mean, it's not uncommon to have significant pullbacks like this, but I'm mainly looking at the summer of 2021. This is what I was talking about. This is a 70% drawdown in the market, but we continue to actually create a higher high. I'm just saying this because, right now, these pullbacks are really nothing to budge at. And that's because these are very shallow. Until we start to see the crazy moves to the upside, that's when we start to actually see that volatility on the downside as well. So just be prepared for that. It's very normal. It's very common, but just a slight little pullback here. I would like for us to, maintain the lows that we already kind of hit. If anything, we go down a little bit to 24 cents, and that's fine. So we'll have to revisit this and kind of see what's happening here. But it all really depends on what Ethereum does next. Ethereum was at higher time frame resistance, like I said, as well, which is why we're actually getting that pullback. And just for reference, you guys can kind of see that higher time frame resistance back here, or even if we kind of zoom out, you can see that this is all resistance up here around 30. It's I can't see the price, but it's around 3,600 or so. But regardless of that, let's actually talk about some pretty bullish things happening in this market. Number one, tokenization. I've been talking about tokenization for the last year or almost 2 years now. We've been technically talking about it since going all the way back to 2021, but it's been really exaggerated over the last 12, 24 months. And that's because all of the big players actually jumping in on tokenization. Now, when we think about this, we're still around $25 billion. There hasn't been a massive release of tokenized RWAs just yet or anything like that. Now, also on top of this, it does go hand in hand with RWA.xyz actually adding networks that have tokenized value on them to the platform. So until that actually happens, we probably don't see like a massive release of RWAs. But one thing that I have been watching is the public networks, because this is just the total RWAs on chain, and this actually goes hand in hand with like even securitized and other platforms that we actually can't invest into. But if we go to the networks, this is actually public blockchains. So these are networks that we could actually invest into, like Ethereum, ZK Sync, Solana, things like that. And I've been waiting for Hedera to be added to this list. There's about $13 billion tied to public networks in this space, and it seems as though they're getting ready to release Hedera Hashgraph. We can actually see it here at number 25. There's only one tracked RWA asset count, and that's actually Atlas Opportunity Fund from Red Swan Real Estate. I'm very excited to see how much money is going to be tied back to Hedera from tokenized RWAs. This could immediately unlock billions of dollars for the tokenized RWA space in the public network tab, because we already know that Red Swan has been tokenizing billions of dollars of real estate on Hedera for quite some time now. They announced their partnership back in, I want to say 2021. So they've been building for a very long time on Hedera. They chose Hedera initially because of the scalability. I think that they were trying to use Ethereum, but it just didn't work out. But I did mention, and I said this even on July 2nd, actually, I said I have been waiting patiently to see Hedera HBAR added to RWA.xyz for months. I can't wait to be able to verify how much tokenized value is living on Hedera right now. We have been watching the tokenization announcements piling up since 2022, with potentially billions being tokenized. The question is, how much since 2022 has actually been tokenized? And that is the real question here, because it could be in the hundreds of millions, it could be in billions. We just know that over the last couple months, we've been seeing announcement after announcement after announcement. For an example, we have over here, Lloyds Bank, Aberdeen used tokenized collateral for FX trades on Hedera. This was quickly followed up by, well, this is actually more new. This is actually just from July 14th, but this one is from October of last year, where the Nairobi Securities Exchange joins the Hedera Council to expedite tokenization of securities in Kenya's capital markets. We already know that the securities market is in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. Actually, some of the players in the securities transaction space, like the DTCC, they're settling quadrillions of dollars per year. So when we think about the numbers behind some of these markets, it's insane. But on top of that, we also know Voltic. This was just another one from January of this year. They're, tokenizing $3 billion in diamonds and gemstones on Hedera as well. So, these are just a few of the announcements that we witnessed, over the last couple months. If we go over the last couple years, I mean, there is probably at least 15 to 20 plus announcements of just tokenization moves happening on Hedera, which is just wild to me. But on top of that, we also know that there's been a lot of engagement from the Hedera team with some pretty big players. For an example, here we have Greg Bell. Again, great day meeting with banks, asset managers, and VCs at the TIIO out east. Big themes: tokenization, AI verification, and stablecoin adoption. The Hedera ecosystem is right at the intersection, and it's growing fast. And yes, when we think about what's happening here, Hedera is involved on every single major development around blockchain and DLT. We're talking about AI, we're talking about, tokenization, DeFi, stablecoins, institutional DeFi use cases, and so much more. I mean, literally every single use case that DLT is really kind of going after, it's living on Hedera right now. They've been talking about it, they've been focused on it, they've been building, they've been connecting, they've been networking with some big players out there. And this is why I've always stated that Hedera is that all-in-one umbrella for almost everything crypto and DLT, because they have almost every single use case tapped in. But on top of that, right, we think about what's been happening with tokenization on Hedera. Their goal is to tokenize everything. We have everything of value will be tokenized. Now, listen, Hedera's not going to tokenize every single dollar out there and everything of value, but they have some pretty big players already tapped in. For an example, we just talked about Nairobi Securities Exchange, but if we look at some of these other players on this list, we already know that some of these players are tokenizing carbon credits. tokenizing, stablecoins and CBDCs. We also know that a lot of these players are looking at other like tokenization moves. Like, for example, if we think about the big banks, tokenized deposit tokens right now are the big thing. JP Morgan is looking into that. So again, if we are really watching as the announcements pile up, this is just going to become a common thing for Hedera. These announcements are not going to be like, look, this is something new. No, it's very common at this point. We know recently Bison Link selected Hedera to advance tokenized financial infrastructure for institutional markets. This was also a big deal. But also on top of this, right, we also witnessed another big development happening around Hedera. And I believe that it was actually first posted from the HBAR Tata. And we have some very interesting tokens were just created on Hedera mainnet, and they look like tokenized money market funds from Archix. Names include BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street, Aberdeen, LGIM. Institutional RWA tokenization on Hedera could be about to ramp up. And I actually think that this aligns perfectly with RWA.xyz actually starting to support Hedera on, their platform. And this kind of goes back to, what Tokenizer did post back in February, actually, of this year. We have interesting seeing HBAR mentioned in this IMF tokenization document. They recognize Hedera's tokenization framework and definitions. And as we know, Hedera has been huge in the world of institutional tokenization, largely via Archix, State Street, BlackRock, Fidelity. The IMF clearly sees this and recognizes it. And yeah, we can see that actually here. They mentioned Hedera, right? This note focuses on the features of tokenization, which can be implemented in different models. Box 1 guides the choice for a technology neutral definition. And yeah, they already recognized Hedera. Hedera is one of those networks that a lot of people actually overlook from the retail side, but outside of that, it is looked at from every single major player out there in the enterprise side, the institutional side, and even the global organizational side. And, I've been talking about this for a very long time. Fortune 500 companies are diving into the Hedera ecosystem. Just recently, if we go back to that post from, the HBAR Foundation, Arrow recently joined the Hedera GC. So again, these are big players that are recognizing the value behind Hedera. They understand how, bullish Hedera actually is. But what's crazier about all of this is that, if we start to see all of these major money market funds hitting the Hedera ecosystem, which, by the way, all of this did get confirmed by Graham Rodford, which is the CEO and co-founder of Archix. We have, he is right. We've created the contracts for all funds we have available on Archix. Hopefully we will see those with balances on RWA.xyz soon, which he did add the eyes, which is exactly why I said I feel like this is all aligned perfectly with the fact that we're starting to see support for Hedera on their platform. The use case for HBAR is transactions involving these instruments, i.e. buy, sell, transfer as collateral. So, this is extremely bullish for Hedera. It's extremely bullish for the entire ecosystem. And yeah, we are starting to see that institutional grade tokenization boom happen in a big way. Now, on top of this, it kind of goes back to August 5th of last year, where Hedera also joined the IIF, the Institute of International Finance, with these same types of names, Circle, Coinbase, and even BlackRock, as well as other leading institutional players, to collaboratively foster global financial stability and sustainable economic growth. Again, like I said, Hedera is on a completely different level. And I do think that everyone should be focused on what they're doing here, what they're becoming, and how fast they are expanding. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, turn notifications on for some more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.